Disclaimer: this podcast was recorded before the balance changes. None of us actually expected this to come up, but now it's here, and a lot of opinions might have been changed. So, all of these opinions discussed in this entire podcast are before the balance changes. Enjoy the podcast. So, hello everyone. Welcome to this entire new podcast. Today we have Dyron, King Rexy, Thunder XP, and Rex the Cleanser, and at GC. Today we're going to talk about the latest DLC, the first level DLC for Kingdomish Alliance, Colossal Dwarefare. So, how are you guys doing?
Pretty average.
It's going alright.
As for this DLC, let's just start off with talking about the latest hero, Kratoa. So, what are your thoughts on this hero?
I think that Kratoa is probably, the main reason that you're gonna buy this DLC for is probably Kratoa. I'm just gonna point that out there, pretty much almost immediately.
Pretty strong.
Kratoa is really strong and really cool too. He has a lot of unique mechanics, kind of like Phoenix from Origins in a way, but a bit more detailized, a bit more cool. For me, this hero is really interesting because he's really micro dependent and your micro is rewarded. He's really strong, pretty much an S tier hero for me. And I think Ironhide really did well with this hero. He is like a masterpiece compared to the other stuff in this DLC, in my opinion.
For me, I would say Kratoa is pretty solid as a hero. As Darren said, he's kind of similar to Phoenix, but unlike her, he is actually more micro-reliant because after he dies, you can still move him around and deal a little bit of true area damage to nearby enemies. So if you utilize him well, you can do a lot more than with just his basic attack. Because his base damage is a bit on the low end, at least compared to other melee heroes, but that's kind of a good thing, because combine that with his low survivability, you can actually cycle him back and forth between using abilities, dying, then using his passive to deal extra true area damage, and then moving him around to the point where enemies are starting to come in to the choke point. Then you revive him, use his hot-headed ability, and that way you can empower your choke point by a solid amount. His ultimate, I would say, is pretty OP, probably one of the best hero spells in the game, like 1200 true area damage. Who thought about this and why, we'll never know, but it is what it is. We have Rain of Fire officially, and I'm kind of glad about it. I would say Kratoa is probably my third favorite character. I still haven't gotten used to him, but he is definitely really strong, especially in the right hands. With the correct amount of micro, he can definitely be classified as one of, if not the best, non-dragon hero in the game.
For me, Kratoa is a very micro-reliant hero, and she's oh, I just said she. Anyways, the character is very fine, or heroes, in my opinion. They're very good. Kratoa is very good. And Rain of Fire ability, the Rain of Fire-esque ability, it's very good, I'll agree on that, but it will never reach the legendary status that is Rain of Fire. I'm sorry, but I'm not taking that back, I'm sorry. But it's still very good hero. S tier if you micro correctly, just pure S tier. Actually a good hero that's not a dragon at all. That's my opinion.
I enjoy micromanagement, and I like his playstyle where you have to balance between him dying and being alive.
As for me, it's almost the same as all your opinions, I would consider. As for Kratoa's super ability, it's one of the strongest ones I have seen in Kingdomish Alliance, at least, and I actually really enjoy it. So,
we have an unexpected visitor. Hello.
Yes.
Oh, hello.
We were talking about the latest hero, so the Kratoa. if you have any opinions, you may share about them.
First of all, I love the ultimate spell. It really is reminiscent of Rain of Fire. I don't care if anybody else agrees or disagrees, to be honest. It just seems to be like a really strong ability for what it is. It's simple to use, slows down enemies, what's not to love, true area damage, and quite a bit at that. The other abilities I like any hero that buffs the damage of all towers that are nearby, even if it's not like full map coverage. That's like, it can't be understated enough, especially with like other towers that are considered weaker by the community.
Yeah.
It's nice to just be able to have that damage buff option. The whirling like lava nado, I think that's visually very cool. It's a little underpowered depending on like what difficulty you play on, but obviously that's kind of just fixed from toning down the difficulty. But for casuals, I think it's fairly strong. The only thing that I've noticed is that, and maybe this is just me personally or I'm not reading this right, but does anybody notice like when Kratoa dies, he doesn't always release those little magma pools at like other spots on the map? It's like every other time that he dies. I'm not sure if that's
Yeah, that's
I think it's based on his super ability. When you kill him with his super ability, that's the only part when he does that attack, I guess, when he dies.
Yes.
indeed.
The
Exactly.
Cataclysm.
Yeah, I believe
So
that.
basically, his ultimate kills him, and in exchange you get this massive area map control, and I would say it's really almost it's worth it every time because it's so powerful, and in my opinion, this is the strongest part about his kit outside of his hero spell. This pure burst damage that you can deal, it's just insane.
Indeed, and the funny thing is,
I'm
each
not
one of the
sure if he's trying to aim when you put the Rain of Fire to him or what, or is it just random?
I believe as long as he's close to where you cast the ultimate, then he should technically explode. And the funny thing is, each one of those little meteors that he spawns, they also deal 200 true area damage, so you can get thousands of true damage across the map, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ridiculously strong.
No.
Yeah. So, as coming up to the second point, what are your thoughts on the heroes? Personally, Canoneers squad is a really great barrack if I have to say. They're really good when they are in ranged attack, but when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, they are kind of bad, if I have to be honest. They can still tank pretty well, but I don't consider them the best barrack. I still prefer to use paladins instead of Canoneer squad. So what are your opinion on it?
Well, I would think that okay, so the thing is that both Canoneers and Paladins are very different. They both have their own specific uses.
Yes.
Like for example, if if there is a level that is going to to heavily spam flying enemies at you, you're probably best off just using Canoneer squad. And also, like, the one thing about Canoneer squad is that it's kind of a gold sink. The tower mostly becomes good when you actually max out all of its upgrades.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if I like
104
that.
DPS.
I'm not really sure if I like that, but
I have to agree with Thunder XP for the most part. The only thing I disagree with is, like, I actually think that the tower is worth every penny. Even if you only get, like, tier 1 for the right ability, which gives them AoE damage every now and then, I still feel like just having the numbers, the sheer numbers, regardless of whether they're in melee combat or using their ranged attacks. Obviously, the ranged attacks are even stronger than the melee ones, but I view the tower as basically like barbarians with ranged AoE attacks that require precise micro. It's high risk, high reward tower. And honestly, even just having multiple squadrons of Canoneers to tank for each other when they're maxed out, yes, it is a lot of gold being sunk into it, but let's just say hypothetically that Ironhide goes absolutely crazy with the updates, and I mean, I doubt that it'll actually happen, but what if they added in endless mode? Could you imagine having like a couple of Canoneer barrack squads like in the back and then like 2 or 3 groups of paladins up front to tank? Like, it would just be insane what you could accomplish with that much firepower.
That's true.
Yeah. I would have to agree. For me, they are a very solid tower. The only thing that drags them down is is that they have to be maxed out to be like very good. They are not that great when they're not maxed out. I'm sorry, but they are not. But still, you can do some absolutely insane combos with them, like putting paladins in the front and them in the back. And overall, they're very good in this campaign.
I would agree. Like, they're solid, but they also have the alliance problem where if the tower isn't at tier 4, it feels a bit lacking. Like, I noticed that from tier 1 to tier 3, they don't do as much compared to other barracks, but once you get the ability that allows them to get an additional unit and you max it out, they're pretty much good to go. Like, I've seen them solo most low tier enemies and even some arrow units. Pretty much any arrow unit you can think of, they can solo 2 basic attacks on impossible, maybe 3, depending on what numbers you roll, which is pretty impressive for a barrack tower, say so myself. Like, they even outperform the Rocketeers in terms of anti-air from time to time, which is kind of impressive for a barrack.
Yeah,
I agree.
The one thing I would actually say about this tower that I did forget to say a little bit earlier is that this tower is very high maintenance. You're gonna be constantly moving this tower, around a lot. You have to move the units around. I found that you had to do that probably the most out of any other barrack to get the best value that you possibly could out of it. Because if you're not doing that, you're probably not gonna have the best time with it.
yeah.
Even compared to Grim Wraiths, though, I mean, I feel like that tower, this is just me personally, but I had more difficulty getting value out of Grim Wraiths. I understand, yes, it's very cool being able to micro the tower itself around, but boy, those guys have, like, no HP. They barely get any damage off before they die, which, granted, you've got the abilities to consider when you upgrade them. I mean, but that's just me personally. I find it way more difficult to get value out of them than I do the
I have a lot of
Canoneers.
things to say about Grim Wraiths, but I think it would be too long here, so I will focus on that.
Let's not
Yes.
stretch it out way too much.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, this new tower is really good. It has a lot of uses. I would say it's pretty versatile. One thing I tried is beating Starving Hollow with just this tower and no other. And it was pretty easy. It really was. I just first tried it with NLL, No Light Lost, and they did everything. They tanked for Hydras, they killed all Wing Crocs, they were dealing pretty good with crowds of enemies. This tower is pretty versatile, but I wouldn't say it's the best in anything. So it can do everything, but it's not the best in anything. You get what I mean? So you can use it pretty much everywhere, in every scenario, but it wouldn't outperform any tower. So for example, in some scenarios, rocket gunners would be better, because these towers are really similar. In other scenarios, for stalling, I would use paladins or grim wraiths, because they're just better at it. And for more consistent damage, I would use something like Ballista or Royal Archer. If you consider all these things, I still think tower is really strong. A tier minimum. And it really shines in some parts of the game, like Starving Hollow, for example.
Yeah. It's a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Yeah, in a way it kind of is. Like, it has one of everything, but it doesn't exceed into a specific category.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The perfect line to describe it.
Yeah, the tower is strong, but I still personally think Grim Wraiths and Rocket Gunners work better. Not gonna lie. Yeah. And design-wise, I don't think they're kind of unique, other than having 5 of them, I think. They're just basically just Rocket Gunners 2.0.
So, as this entire update has already released and we all have gotten enough time to play with it, what are your overall thoughts on it? I have already given them on my channel, so I won't say much, but it was really great. before the balance changes, and I'm gonna discuss about it right now because I was kind of disappointed when the balance changes came in after the update dropped in. The enemies got nerfed. That kind of made the DLC a lot much more easier for me. It was a great challenge before, but now it feels a lot much more easier, and I would be really interested to see your opinions on them.
I think one of the most important things I'm gonna say, and probably one of the things I should start off by saying, is that whoever says that the DLC is bad is, they're probably fake. Like, we're just gonna be real here. Whoever says that this DLC is actually bad or not good in any way, shape, or form, they're probably faking it because. When it comes to the reality of it, it actually is it is good content. It is a good piece of content. It's just the problem with it is, and I'm talking before even the balance changes. So literally before that, it was just kind of overshadowed by the other two DLCs. It didn't really meet the same expectations. Like the final level was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen in Kingdom Rush. Like. I'm telling you right now, like when I was playing the 5th level of this DLC, I was literally sitting there and I was just asking myself, like, is this even Kingdom Rush anymore? Like, what is this? I wasn't expecting to see a giant mecha and you had to tap on it a little bit, and the animations were crazy.
Yeah, we got that nostalgia part from Kingdom Rush 1 when we have to interact with the boss by clicking something around the boss, abilities here and there. That actually was one of the best parts which I found in that boss fight, or entire level overall.
I just think that the expectations, the expectations were set way too high with Pirate Kings and Hammerhold. That Colossal Dwarefare, it didn't really hit it the same way. It was still good, but it didn't hit it the same exact way that we were hoping for, I guess.
It's just it's just that fact that Hammerhold had so much iconicness. When you look at Hammerhold DLC, you can see so many upcoming new characters, and even few of the seen characters like Malik, Alex. There were so many new characters and old characters coming back. That gets us a lot of iconicness. Same goes with Pirate Kings DLC. And I think many people who play Kingdom Rush games based on what they like, this DLC is gonna be something they're not really gonna enjoy. That's what I personally have seen by doing a lot of polls here and there.
I think it also just depends on like the audience itself too. Like, I'm sure casual gamers like in general will just have like a higher opinion of it just simply by the fact that it's new content. And I myself have kind of like toned down my expectations for like what Ironhide is going to release in like different updates. I personally, like you said at the start, Prahant, my opinion with the DLC is vastly similar to yours. I really do think that the balance changes were, for the most part, unwarranted. But that being said, I mean, I could see where a casual person would be like, okay, this can be a little difficult. And even when I was playing on, it's like casually messing around with like random towers and heroes or whatever, the boss can still be threatening despite the rather lackluster appearance. It's easy to get caught off guard if you're not prepared for the mechanics or what he does with like the magnets. So
for me, this was a really good campaign, but after the nerfs, it really fell off. But the saddest thing for me is I was watching the DLC falling off in real time. I was on forums from other communities related to Kingdom Rush, watching them kind of saying that this DLC was bad because it was hard. And that was coming from one of the most try-hard communities I know, and that is the Chinese community, which they are very try-hard.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not joking. I was on the forum seeing people saying, I am happy that the DLC fell to negative reviews on Steam. I was shocked because that is not what I know from the Chinese community. If I've played, which the mods I have played thoroughly, and most of them are low-key kind of impossible.
Yeah.
So that was shocking for me.
Yeah.
But honestly, Ironhide outdid themselves with this DLC before it was nerfed. The music incredible, by
Oh, yeah.
very very immaculate, perfect. As the connoisseur of most Canoneers music, I really love it. The boss theme was okay to me. It wasn't the best we have. It was just kind of mid to me.
Boss theme kind of reminds me of something that you'd see from Marvel. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the only one that that has
No.
that. That has
No,
that
I would
going on.
agree. I would agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's agree.
Marvel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it
just reminds me.
And,
The
balance
animations-
changes, that's a lot.
Yeah, the animations were also incredible, and at this point, I was wondering, was also too.
And,
I was wondering, what is this Skin Rush anymore? And for me, that can be either good or bad, because the lore gets tossed. It just kind of goes into a loophole, I guess, because the lore is now kind of screwed up with this DLC.
But the lore's beyond whack.
Why?
Yeah,
I don't.
You don't say.
No, the ending comic scene was such a 180-degree head spinner. Like, okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
first, like, let's think about this for a second. So Desnan originally fought alongside Dennis in Origins,
Yeah.
attacked him in the original edition. Basically, his apprentice carried out his other wishes to distract him in Frontiers, so it's kind of an attack on the kingdom, but not really directly, but still connected loosely. Then you've got Vengeance, where he just goes right back to his roots from the original game, and it does another full-scale invasion. Now, he banishes his friend at the end of Vengeance into, the Void, the
Yeah.
Overseer's realm
But-
or whatever,
but before
and
you
then literally saves him from corruption, and now is planning on overthrowing them again. It's like, what are we doing here?
About the Kingdom Rush lore, it's just going to be a complete loop, a cycle, just a whole entire loop of everything happening over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's gonna become
Perhaps.
like Bendy and the,
Yeah, no.
it's gonna become like Bendy and the Ink Machine, where the lore just continues, the cycle never ends.
Yeah, but
Like the character's lore is kind of more interesting than the main one.
Yeah, also
Yeah.
Agree.
I actually wished they added more lore, because like imagine if we got with Kratoa we got Wilbur to explain like more lore. What if Grimbeard was Wilbur's brother and something insane like that, like a plot twist, which would have been really nice because the lore seems pretty lacking. Like we just have Grimbeard, this new villain, came out of nowhere. Ironhide made him up immediately, and then Dark Steel is now a thing. Like, give me some
No.
lore, please.
I think the lore isn't really something they should be focused on, though. I feel like, again,
It
you've already
isn't.
got
It should
you've got a
side
slew of
thing,
other
yeah.
problems on your
Lore is
plate. You
kinda
need to focus on
enjoyable, though.
fixing.
But I still do like what they've done. Animations immaculate, the music immaculate. Just now with the balance changes, it's gotten really rough.
yeah, they just nerfed the wrong things. Like, if anything, a lot of things needed to be buffed, bosses especially. I've noticed that pretty much, except for one, none of them have a magic resistance or armor or some sort of damage absorption. They have none of that. So
Yeah.
any type of tower can work against them, which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Well, Arcane W, let's go! No, not a single magic resistant enemy in sight. W.
Well, there is a total of 3 magic resistant enemies, but
Grim Race
they
double.
weren't that great.
Well, they are, but they're not really that dangerous. Come on.
They were
Yeah.
dangerous before the nerfs. I want to be more
Yeah.
specific with these nerfs. So I don't
The
really
mobile
care about all of the nerfs except for the one Dark Steel Hulk nerf that was awful.
Yeah.
The
I
enemy
agree.
just doesn't work anymore. It's just a
Yeah.
walking mid sack. I don't know how
Yeah,
to describe
exactly.
him
it
because
just feels like a high tier
Well,
enemy rather than a
Yeah.
boss boss.
For the the only thing they should have nerfed, the only thing they should have nerfed, in my opinion, is the flyers.
Rolling
Like that was it. And
Yeah.
then they decided, because they only did this change because the DLC was going down. They were probably doing this
Yeah.
as like a quick fix to the situation because they didn't know why this was getting negative reviews. So they just did this as a quick fix, and they notified nobody. Nobody on this.
True to that, but I also feel like they nerfed the flyers in the wrong way. Like they nerfed the flying sentry when in reality the bigger issue was the rolling sentry because of how tanky it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah,
talks
but they're-
about not getting buffed. Or I mean, not getting nerfed, sorry.
Yeah.
That's definitely like one of the few that should have been nerfed.
Yeah, I would say probably the only one.
Yes.
The Darksteel Hulk just needed to be bug fixed. It didn't need to be
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
nerfed in that way.
And
Just,
bosses
just
Yeah.
give it
have been
some sort of
buffed.
safety notes or something.
Yes.
Yeah. And they just decided, screw it, we're gonna nerf them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they overdid it.
Which is
Wow.
They listened to feedback, but unfortunately to the wrong one, I would say.
And now
Yeah.
like for the
Yeah.
base people was disappointing, and now now with it being changed for them, now it's disappointing for us. It's just kind of a flip.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
if you're playing on Impossible, it should be difficult. You can't expect the level to
Of
be easy,
course.
especially since it's a DLC. The whole point
Yes.
of the DLC levels is that they're
Yeah.
supposed to be harder than usual. So when the players are complaining that way, well, it's normal. Just get better at the game,
Yeah,
use
but
better
it's-
strategies.
It's weird
And
coming
that's-
from the
that's what
Chinese. I
I
just can't. I just can't. It's weird. They make the most almost the most impossible stuff ever made that I've somehow played through. Zeta mod. I've struggled on that for hours, and still I only get like at max 2 stars because somehow an enemy gets by, and like them complaining about this was really like the weirdest thing I've seen, and they just said that their numbers were randomly inflated for no reason, which yeah,
like-
yeah that doesn't make sense when you randomly inflate the numbers too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, guys, there actually is something kind of important that I do want to talk about. Listening to their
Yes.
bands a little bit. Now, here's the thing. Like, the reason I say this is important is because in the older games, like back in Kingdom Rush 1 through Origins, or even Vengeance, to be honest, when there were any complaints, any kind of reviews for the game saying that a level was too hard, and this was like way back in probably like the days of Curse of Blackburn, when someone complained that a level was too hard, usually what Ironhide would do is like, hey, we have guides for this, we have videos showing guides for this. It's not like they would ever nerf me or they would ever go out of their way to make it easier or something. No, they would just say, hey, we have a video right here, we have a guide video, check it out, and maybe this will help you. But never ever would they actually go out of their way to just nerf an enemy just because people are complaining about it, which tells you that Ironhide was way more confident back in the day with their decisions. But nowadays, I feel like Ironhide is just not as confident anymore.
That's
Yeah,
because
they
it
focus
doesn't
on-
sell.
agreed.
If it doesn't sell,
Yeah.
it's directly tied to finances.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because DLC is selling,
Wow.
and if it's not selling well, then they need to change something, so they would
And-
get more money.
And the problem is, plus, their only IP right now that they're using is Kingdom Rush. Like, Junkworld has been on a steady, I guess, decline. So is Iron Marines. Pretty much everybody forgot about that. Unless they remind themselves Iron Marines exists. But at this point, their only IP that they have now is Kingdom Rush.
Well,
that they're actually
it honestly makes
continuing.
sense since they're putting a lot of resources into Alliance because it's their most popular product so far. So
Yeah.
they're trying to make more updates, add new levels, and the DLC was just a test to see how loyal people are to the game. And well, judging by the feedback, it was a bit of a miss.
We don't know that
Yeah.
though, as far as like it being the most popular product.
Wow.
Originally, in the
No,
first 3
it is.
games that were released, it was Frontiers. Now, but before the release of Alliance, it was Vengeance. And now, out of all 5 of it, it's only just now has Alliance really started getting its popularity spotlight.
Yeah,
So
but-
before we continue real quick, I gotta unfortunately get going, but I'll see you guys around. Thanks for letting me crash the
Oh,
party.
thanks for joining, Paul.
Okay, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, see you, colleagues.
And you can just check the Steam graphs, and you can see how many people bought it. But the reason why it was so there's so many people bought it or got into it is because they hyped this game up so much. I'd say they overhyped it, because most of the like things they did for Alliance is they just did like like wishlist the game on Steam and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They wouldn't
but,
do that for any of the older games.
Yeah, they didn't do that. They just said, wishlist this game on Steam. Let's go get to 100K. And yeah, they did. And then we got this, where mass people bought the game, and now it's just getting to a point where Alliance feels kind of underwhelming.
I mean,
I still find it interesting, to be honest. I still find it interesting that Ironhide, you know, like all of a sudden they just started being so hyperactive with the community, and they started being way more responsive and, you know, way more, what's the word I'm looking for? Way more reactive with their community, I guess. The moment that Alliance was coming in, you never saw those days in the original games and in Vengeance. Like, I mean, I haven't been in there since the days of Flash and you know, the way older days, so I can't really speak for that. But
it's just
I don't
kind
think
of
they have like.
Yeah, when it
It's
comes
like-
to this DLC, I actually think that the problems can be solved with just switching the numbers. Just making a big rebalance for this DLC, and it will be great. Levels in these DLCs have great gimmicks. Every one of them has something to do with environment or enemies spawning or interesting boss mechanics, something like that. And before the nerfs, DLC was actually pretty good. It was quite challenging, it was interesting and entertaining, well, for me. And I really enjoyed it. But now, after these nerfs, I feel like DLC is kind of underwhelming. But I think Ironhide just released, I think 1 or 2 days ago, a bug fix, a little bug fix update, and they fixed a couple of things with heroes and arrows, but most importantly, then they said that they will try to rebalance Colossal Dwarefare again with actual. Yes, they will do some changes, some balance changes to enemies and bosses, hopefully.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward for it, to be honest.
That is really good. I do want to say one last thing though before like we move on eventually maybe. I want to say one last thing. Like if you think about it, you know, just go to the 5th level. Look at the background. Look at the way the background is drawn. Like they are literally using a faraway background. You know, it's supposed to make you feel like you're actually seeing the background from far away. That has never. I don't think that has ever been done in Kingdom Rush before.
And these snow animations on level 1 and level 5 are pretty dope.
They definitely got that right.
Thunder, I think what you just said, I think it has been done before. I just don't remember when, because
probably in Vengeance. I think Dragon's Boneyard and Joko's Nest have this visual.
Joko's Nest. Yeah, that's where he uses it. But it's really a small detail, because most of the map is just.
It's not as present as it is in the last level of Colossal Dwarefare.
And it's also present in the 3rd level of the Colossal Dwarefare.
Yeah. So yeah, visuals are really good. I also think that the difficulty of the previous version, pre-nerfed, was higher than even Pirate Kings. It was really hard and challenging, and I really liked it. So for me, this campaign before nerfs was better than Hammerhold, because Hammerhold was cool, iconic with returning characters, but kind of easy. And this campaign, if we're looking at the actual content and forgetting about returning characters, it was better in my opinion. But now after these nerfs, where stats of some enemies got nerfed, where some enemies like Darksteel Hulk got this ridiculous nerf where the enemy just doesn't work. Now
the basic enemy nerf was uncalled for too.
And now it's really underwhelming.
The basic enemies are fine.
I don't really want to play it anymore, as for now.
Well, the
So
DLC is still fine for me.
okay.
Well, the Dark still,
Yeah, to be
the Dark
honest,
still
I would
is
still play the
still strong.
DLC.
The multi-version.
So we discussed quite a lot of things for now.
Yeah.
But when it comes to lore, I would just like to
Yeah, but
hold myself over here because I have a lot of theories which I won't say or it's gonna be a long time. But I personally believe Kingdom Rush Alliance is just a build up for next Kingdom Rush game, as all Kingdom Rush games go in similar way. And I truly don't believe it's a loop, nowhere similar to that. I think it's somewhere going to be bigger than that, but as for the DLC, it's a strategy game. It definitely needs to be hard. And the reason it got those balance changes was the reason the Chinese community came out of nowhere and just started saying it's too much hard. And I don't think that's even a valid reason, as if it's hard, it's basically good, to be honest. You can just look up on YouTube or whatever they use as their even strategy guides are available on Kingdom Rush Alliance site. Well, I would just say I made those, but not promoting myself. But option is not just just go full into the Steam page and just say it's hard. And it got really bad reviews. Like, it turned from positive to highly negative reviews. And if I still looked up a few days ago, it was still that, and I am really sad about that. But overall, it's a good DLC in my perspective. It was really great. It was a bow hammer hold, as Tyrone said, before the nerfs, but after it's kind of a little bit underwhelming. But still, I would consider to play it.
Yeah, I think as one-time experience, this DLC still can be really good.
Yeah.
Still can be challenging, even though not for me. Yeah, but as a whole DLC, replayability of the DLC is kind of bad right now. But I believe that Ironhide will improve it, and I'm really looking forward to it, because I really liked this before nerfs, and nerfs were really heartbreaking for me.
Before we
Yeah,
ended.
I wanted to say one more thing about the lore. So I kind of agree about the statement that lore of Alliance is kind of strange, weird, in a way that it's just a cycle. But as for this DLC, I really like this one thing, that they didn't throw out the new villain that came out, and they basically said that Grimbeard will return later.
Yeah.
And I like that they are making these characters which will return. So they are making up this kind of legacy. So when Grimbeard will return, we will say, "Oh, remember this guy? He was in Alliance." It is really cool. So this will be kind of is the same situation which we had with Vengeance mostly, and Origins. Like Vesnan reappeared in Origins and then got his whole game, and before he was just a Kingdom Rush 1 boss.
Yeah.
And kind of the same thing could be done with Grimbeard. So I really like this thing, but overall, yeah, lore of Alliance is kind of questionable.
Yeah, and now I want to get to the, I hope, final point, is that what are you guys' predictions on the new update and the DLC that's going to be coming after the update for Alliance?
There will be
Or
another
period.
stressful flying enemy to deal with.
That's most likely.
Does
Exactly
anybody
that.
have some...
Most likely.
I don't want to be
To be honest, I kind of wish the new mini campaign. Because mini campaign has no flying enemies like in the Rising Tides.
Well,
I just don't want to deal with them anymore.
Well, that's some wishful thinking. In every level in Alliance, there's at least one wave where there's a bunch of
Relier.
arrow units.
Yeah, and then I've seen some weird theories about the next DLC for Alliance, and this was from Voduk server. Basically, someone predicted that the next DLC will be about Saitam, which it's basically just a comparison
I
of the
also
DLC
heard,
image and then Saitam, which really
Yeah,
isn't that.
I
doesn't
have
matter.
heard it.
guys, I saw that theory from the Reddit post about Titan's gonna appear in the new DLC.
I
Yeah.
personally think.
Not happening.
Okay,
That's not
okay.
happening.
Oh
That's
my
not
god.
happening.
I personally
Yeah.
think that the DLC, this DLC is probably going to have some sort of like Imperial theme to it. And by the way, I do like I really do like the theory that Saitam will return, because he's kind of one of those one-off characters that you never see, like very very similar to other characters like Kutsao, Durax, Oni, most importantly like Ignis. I think one of those one-off characters that never ever return and you never hear from them again are very interesting. So Saitam does fall in that category. So not only do I think Saitam will return, but I also think Zin from Kingdom Rush Origins will also return, because he does kind of share. Yeah, I see. Like, hear me out. I think that the reason why I think he's gonna return is because he kind of shares a similar theme. And not only that, but he is an Origins hero, and I feel like what Alliance is, it's trying to represent Origins in a way.
Yes.
Like, for example, we had Arrivan and Eridan, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Raz and Rags was also kind of mentioned. Maybe that was in the Q&A.
Yeah, in Stragi's interview.
So I do think Zin will return as well. That's just an assumption, but
Yeah.
to be honest, I am hoping he does.
Yeah, it could be because I don't know, if the next DLC is China themed, then high chance he'll return.
Yeah,
Well,
the one thing
there
that
was
you
something
said, I
similar
think
to
this really makes sense, that Alliance represents Origins in the same way like Vengeance represented Carry 1 and then Frontiers. Yeah, and I think Alliance is trying to do something similar to that, but with Origins. We already got Undying Fury with Erivan and Eridan, and the upcoming new mini campaign is also most likely going to be a match with Origins because of the spiders in this silhouette. So yeah, I think the return of Zin can really make some sense. But I don't know about Saitam. Just
same here.
Yeah.
I mean, Saitam could return, but it won't make sense because he's literally located on the opposite side of the world. So how would he just magically teleport here?
Yeah.
Is this supposed to be the Origins
I mean,
combo?
he could fly.
He does have his
Can't he
clouds.
just fly?
He could
yeah,
just
but-
make
He
it
has
easily.
clouds though.
But what would be his purpose here? Like, what type of story he's going to fulfill?
Yeah, but also something interesting is that on the staff that he's carrying, he has spikes on it, but from the DLC, that is gone. So that's probably not him, and probably just a new
I
character.
mean, it looks similar to his. I don't remember the name of the ability, but the AOE attack. It kind of reminds me of that. Like,
Yeah.
In terms of the
Yeah,
silhouette.
it looks similar, but it doesn't make sense.
Silhouette I would consider. I see some kind of Iron Marines connection over there. Two characters holding some kind of snipers in two side, and in mid there's another character. That's something what I personally think of. It's just completely different. But I personally don't think Saitam would be fitting in this lore or anywhere here. But in future, if they want to, they can just fit it in. Like, if that was one, it can happen anytime. But yeah, I personally think it could be possible.
To be honest,
could be
considering
not.
how wacky the Alliance lore is, I think they would somehow make Saitam fit in the Alliance lore. Considering how wacky it is.
Yeah, they could.
You were still hoping for the jungle DLC for Vengeance.
Nah.
We
Sorry,
need to
but
screw the jungle. We need Sori and DLC.
Exactly. That's
Come on.
exactly what I'm saying. We need a depth DLC.
I thought
We need
the
Asterisk to come back.
I mean,
Said that they're their own thing, but what is that supposed to mean?
yeah,
Come
he
on.
just kind of
Yeah,
said.
They're such
they're
a
just
cool.
gonna chill.
Yeah,
There's
let's
this cool-
let's
we all
hope
know.
that
I think we
Saurians will
all know
return.
that Saurians are evil. We all know that Saurians are evil. Like we don't need to talk about it.
They are supposed to be.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
they would be
kind of like
unpleasant.
third party, so they could match in alliance in theory.
Yeah.
They
Not
could,
lore-wise, but logical-wise.
But until then, I need a arcane hero again, somebody who's not Magnus, because at this point, even lore that Ironhide themselves kind of build out on from Lokiar, even in that, Magnus is like constantly getting beaten by characters. It's like in the cancelled lore for Lokiar, there was a comic in there where Magnus shows up, and this new character who kind of systematically instantly beats him with his own magic, which is really sad to see with his arc, because Magnus gets the worst of it in all of the Kingdom Rush games, but Arcane Tower is systematically one of the best. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
I think
besides Kingdom Rush
Ironhide
1,
kind
he
of.
was kind of
I think Ironhide kind of forgot about him because he was in the comic in Legends, but
Yeah.
and I think he was supposed to show up in Alliance, but no, I think they just forgot about him. And that's it.
Well,
Looks like
he is a apprentice
I don't think they're
of
forgetting about him.
Westland, so
I don't think they're forgetting about him. It's just that because they canceled out on the Lokiar lore, most of the stuff that happened in Alliance is actually not happening, because in the Lokiar there was also another thing that I saw, which was quite interesting. You guys know the sword that you get after you beat Gorgrind.
Sword of Feline.
Apparently, the hilt of that sword is what they found in the comic. Is they were talking about this great treasure that was lost that they thought was lost with King Dinas, and then Magnus grabs the hilt of the sword, which is a really cool idea. So meaning that they were planning to make the sword a thing all the way since Lokiar.
I assume the blade was not there. Perhaps they were two separate parts.
Yeah. The blade was not there. Only the hilt was, and they say this is the first piece to our salvation before the villain shows up. And in that comic, also Illyria is mentioned. They say, "Run, fools! Run, you fools! Illyria is our only hope." But funny thing that they about Illyria, they misspelled her name in that comic, which is so sad. One of the L's is just missing.
Yeah, and Illyria
Like
is
one
also
L.
kind of forgotten.
Yeah,
to be
one
honest.
L added on to Illyria's name. They wanted to take off the L's off of her name.
I'm not sure how true this statement is, but I think I've definitely seen this on the Ironhide Discord server. I've seen someone say that Illyria was in Alliance's game files. Like Illyria as a hero. She was in Alliance's files.
Wait, what?
Maybe
I
it was
think I don't know, but I do remember seeing that in the Ironhide Discord server. I do remember seeing that.
Wait.
I don't know if it was a troll, but
If you can find the post, can you send it? I guess.
I think it was from Painful. But hold on, I'll try.
Wait, I know him. I know him.
Really? Well, yeah, but that's also interesting. Like, even if Illyria is technically in the code, she might have been just unused. Because I've noticed that the Dark Knights apparently in Vengeance had a new tier 4 where they're supposed to be riding on horses' backs. The code is there, but there's no sprites, so perhaps they have a piece of code for Illyria, but they never came up with the sprites because it was cancelled.
Yeah, similar to how the Vesnon disciples were in Vengeance before they replaced them with Demon and Goonies.
The
Yeah,
only
because
side of them is the little piece of code, and I believe there's also the notification for them.
yeah, I think we got a bit
That's
out of the topic.
Yeah, perfectly okay. We'll just skip this topic like it never got the ending.
Yeah.
Alright, so I think we have discussed a lot of things in this entire podcast, and thank you for joining, everyone. It was a really awesome time. We talked about a lot of things, and looking forward to Ironhide to take reviews from everyone, I would consider, and implement it in their future updates, DLCs, etc. So yeah, you can check out their channels. I will put the link in the description down below, and hit the subscribe button over here too. And see you all in the next podcast. Until there, keep on rushing.